Well, since we were just talking about your kind of the trading platform and the auction platform that you have at Bezel, this is actually probably a perfect time to talk about a rumor I heard. I heard that there's a partnership between Bezel and Kalshi that's going to be happening pretty soon. Actually, by the time this episode airs, that news will already be out. So, one, I feel very privileged that I get to know something before the rest of the watch community. And two, congratulations. That is incredible. I definitely want to hear, how did this come to fruition? What will this partnership entail? Obviously, like, Kalshi is really becoming a household name in kind of like trading and, their commercials and everything. So please fill us in.
No, and I appreciate it for bringing that up. Part of being a technology business in watches has been, to your point on the Bezel report, like analyzing the data that we have. But the second, I think, is the biggest question for a lot of folks is like, how do you quantify the market? How do you understand pricing? And what are we doing with our data to like improve that problem and to add more transparency to the industry generally? And so a lot of the investment that we've done internally is like in recognition of the fact that it's kind of like Chrono 24, eBay, and us from a scale perspective and a marketplace side where we are getting a lot of volume. They're certainly global. We're US only right now. But we have enough data that we're starting to like really understand valuations of these watches, how they're changing and how they're moving. And we have enough touch points, not just on the transactional side, but like the reality is, if you just scrape market data, you're only getting like a fraction of the story. Like the watch that's on my wrists may have been listed for $10,000, but five people bid 8,200 and the seller came down to 9,200. And that's all like behind closed doors, not public data for all of these platforms, ourselves included. And so we're able to take these data points to then extrapolate a prediction engine for market values for watches. And so we've been working a lot internally to build that. And we've just been using it internally. So we've been using it when sellers want to set an estimate for their watch at auction. Like we can programmatically generate one for them. If a retail seller wants to list their watch and they need help understanding market pricing, like we make this available to them. We have an insurance product. And so it's like, we can use that on insurance appraisals or things like that. And so I think, is in the market of trying to let you trade anything. And
Right.
I had seen that they did a partnership with StockX. And obviously, like, it's super collectible centric, but I think it's fun to trade watches versus Labubus or something else. And so our team reached out and we've just had a super fun time jamming with each other. And I think our thesis when we started the business was like make the watch world more accessible. And I think the way that we've approached that is by making it higher trust, by making it accessible in the sense that you're not on wait lists to get these things. And the goal there was to grow the market. But I think one of the fun parts is like you and I might be sitting here and speculating that Rolex is going to discontinue a Pepsi this year. And we have like, a really strong belief in that. But
Right.
I maybe don't want to shell out 25K right now to buy a Pepsi on Jubilee to hedge that market, right? And so
Right.
the fun part is it allows for enthusiasts in the watch world to participate in their beliefs with only, 50, 10, 100,000, whatever it is you want to put on that trade, essentially. And so
Right.
what a partnership will allow is both qualitative and quantitative markets. The quantitative side, it's kind of like, will this watch go up in price or down in price over N period of time, a month, 6 months, a year, whatever you decide. Kind of more of the qualitative or quantitative stuff. And the qualitative is like, will Rolex discontinue this model? Or is Rolex going to release this model? Like whatever it is, we've built a set of
Right.
markets. And so the fun part is I think it's just the start. And we'll launch this next week from this pod. Whenever this pod launches, it'll be then, it'll have been launched. But we're super excited and it's a fun collaboration to kind of bring some more interesting tech to the watch world.
Yeah. No, that's so cool. And I love that you have this data product and you thought of like, all right, where else can we use this, right? In a way that's frankly, it's totally different departure from what Bezel has been doing previously. And obviously the visibility that will come with this for you should be fantastic. And I can definitely think of some people that will be expressing some of their beliefs through Kalshi on this. So
Crazy.
that'll be awesome.
I wish it was live earlier. It's funny. It's like the Pepsi example, and I don't want to be sitting here like spinning a rumor, but the Pepsi example is so funny and real right now, where as of this week, we saw a ton of dealers flooding in buying Pepsis from us because there's like some interest, some rumor. I don't know what it's grounded at all in, but there's a rumor that there's a discontinuation of Pepsi, which I think has been a rumor for 3 years now.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and so, but we have dealers that are coming in there, and they're buying a bunch of them, and they're just going to stock them. And then we have dealers that are not willing to sell them right now because they also think that they should keep their inventory and stock them. And so it's funny to see, like, on a microcosm of the Rolex world, or specifically the Pepsi world, it's
Right.
already happening, but it's only happening with the people that are like just shelling out that type of cash to be, and they're okay with being right or wrong because they're dealing
Yeah.
with liquidity. For like the watch forums of the world, I think people are also talking about it, but they have no access to this. And so I was
Yeah.
like, shit, I wish this existed this week because
Yeah.
I know people would be frothing over the aspect of being able to do that. So I'm very excited to see what happens with it. And like anything that we do, we want to learn from the community's response to it. Like, if people hate certain markets, they love certain markets, I think this is a crazy idea. I think this is an awesome idea. I think that'll allow us to decipher, how hard we should put our foot on the pedal or not, right? So I think it's early days, but we're excited about it.
Yeah, that is super exciting, and, I mean, the watch community, like, loves a good speculation, waiting for all of those releases and things being discontinued, how much what percentage price will Rolex hike the sub, whatever it is, so
Yeah, and there's
that's
all these
that's cool.
interesting market dynamics that are happening. It's like, obviously, Watches and Wonders is like a big catalyst with the discontinuation
Right.
and the new additions. But like, the tariff environment has been crazy, and I think everyone's
Yeah.
like, what's going to happen next? A lot of things changed yesterday. Are they going to actually change? Or like, it's just all of this volatility causes the prices to change, and I think that's quite fun to apply data to and track.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I have to know, like, are either of the Kalshi co-founders themselves, like, personally into watches?
I don't know. I haven't gotten to ask them that question. I know their team's really excited. And so I think I mean, you know this as well. It's like the most fun part about my job is I'm able to meet really awesome people that either invest in the business, that are our clients. Like, and the cool part is, I think watches, very biased statement, but I think watches, unlike any other collectible vertical, is like this massive Venn diagram overlap of the most influential, exciting, successful people. And I can't think of another collectible cat class or object that does it as well. Like, if you take the top 1% of folks that are in real estate, finance, technology, healthcare, whatever it is, like, there's a very high chance that they have a nice watch, they care about nice watches, or they're 1 degree away from becoming obsessed with nice watches. And like,
Yes.
art maybe, but like, I think it's a smaller group, and there's a lot of constraints. Cars, maybe, I don't know, like garage spaces, people don't like. It's like, I just think
Yeah,
it's this easy thing.
it is one of the most passionate communities of collectibles there is. No question, and I completely agree with you. Certainly on the tech side, I've talked to a lot of people, and I get to talk to amazing people on this podcast like yourself who, they're in, all kinds of, like, awesome roles within technology companies and, like, some of the watch insiders, of course, but they love watches. Then again, I've also talked to many people who I'm like, "Are you a watch person? Do you like watches?" And they're like, "I don't give a shit." And they're like a CRO of some other publicly traded company. I'm like, "That's cool. No
Yeah.
worries. You probably shouldn't come on this show. I'd still like to talk to you, but you should not be on this show."
Yeah. It's funny. I love those people though, because I feel like it's not that it's a challenge, but it's like, you get the right watch on their wrist, and they're like, I kind of get it. But then
Yeah,
as soon as the door is like cracked slightly open, like that thing gets bust open so fast, and all of a sudden,
totally.
like, I love this. Like, and this is our favorite anecdote we love to tell. It's like, I think the watch world, certainly in the US, from a user education perspective, is still like not even close to where it needs to be. And I think if you think about like the total addressable market, like, it can grow so much by just allowing people access to these things
Yes.
and exposure to information. And so it's folks like yourself that are like getting the narrative out here and talking to people and making it approachable, and telling stories that like people connect with. And I think the whole goal of our business is, if there was a name brand in the secondary market that people understood and they trusted, I think it would lower the barrier of entry to acquiring your first watch. And I think as soon as you do, it accelerates really quickly. The story I love to tell is
Yeah.
when we first started the company, one of our investors' best friends is this guy who had worked in tech his entire life and he'd done quite well for himself. Never bought a watch though. Always was like, it sounds like a hassle. Like, I don't know. Do I really care that much? Buys just a ceramic black dial, no date sub, modern, puts it on his wrist. I think within the first year of him owning that watch, he went like 0 to a couple $100,000 in transactions in the platform. And he buys probably 5 a year now. I have more stories of people that do that than people that put that Rolex on the wrist and they're like, this is all I need. I don't really need more than that. And
Yeah.
so I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the fun part. So,
I hope that there is like a pitch deck somewhere when you were raising your seed round where there's a slide on it and it's like our TAM, every wrist in America.
yeah, we
And
didn't.
then they all were just like mic drop. They start clapping. They're like, it's every wrist in America. The market's huge.
Yeah, it was the closest I can say that we got to that was a lot of the pushback we would get from the venture world when we were raising capital was, what about the Apple Watch? Everyone has an Apple Watch. No one cares about Rolexes or Omegas or Cartiers or Tudors or whatever. And we did a lot of analysis on that. And the funny thing is, putting anything on your wrist actually makes you more likely to buy another watch. And so I don't care if it's an Apple Watch. I don't care if it's a starter watch. I don't care if it's a crazy Patek. If you put something on your wrist, you realize like, this is quite cool. And what we found is people that put an Apple Watch on their wrist needed to go to a wedding and they were like, I can't wear this. And then they're like, what can I replace this? I'm now used to having something on my wrist.
Right. You don't want to look like Inspector Gadget.
So the reality is not everyone is going to have a watch on the wrist, but I think like the proliferation of the Apple Watch and like even I'm wearing a Whoop right now, like the things that we're putting on a wrist, I think is only accelerating the interest in having things on your wrist, which actually just helps the watch world balloon generally. So I think there are more wrists that want watches this year than there were last year and the year before. And I think it's going to keep accelerating from a growth perspective.